They say you don't remember the day you were born, but you sure as hell remember the day you were reborn. For me, that was a Tuesday, a gray, miserable Tuesday in November, the day I aged out of the system. 18 years old, that's the magic number. One day you're the state's problem, the next day you're just a problem. I stood in Mrs. Gable's office. She was the director, a woman who smelled like old coffee and bleach. She didn't look at me. She never really looked at us. She was just shuffling papers, stamp, sign, stamp, sign. She wanted me gone before lunch. "Well, boy," she said, looking at the clock, "that's it. You're done. Here's your file. Here's your $40 travel money." I took the envelope. It felt light, lighter than 18 years of life should feel. I asked her the question I promised myself I wouldn't ask. My throat was dry, like I'd swallowed sand. "Mrs. Gable, did anyone, did they leave anything? My parents?" She finally looked up. Her glasses slid down her nose. She sighed, the kind of sigh you give when a fly won't stop buzzing. She opened a drawer, a wooden drawer that squeaked like a dying mouse. "No money," she said, cold, flat. "Your folks didn't have a dime, no savings bonds, no house, nothing." My heart sank. I knew it, but hearing it, it breaks you a little, just a little more. "But," she said, pulling something out, "there was this." She tossed it on the desk. It hit the wood with a heavy thud. It wasn't a locket. It wasn't a ring. It wasn't a photo. It was a key, a single, heavy, rusted iron key, and attached to it, on a piece of dirty masking tape, was one word written in grease pencil: tractor. I picked it up. It was cold. It smelled like iron and oil. "A tractor?" I asked. "Where?" She handed me a scrap of paper with an address. Middle of nowhere, about 40 miles north. "Good luck, kid. You're gonna need it." And that was it. No hug, no "I'm proud of you," just a rusted key and the door slamming behind me. I walked out into the rain with $40 and a key to a machine I didn't know how to drive, left by people I didn't know. Chapter 2. The Rust Bucket. I took the bus as far as it would go. Then I walked 5 miles in the mud. The address led to a place that wasn't on the map anymore, just a plot of land that the world forgot. When I got there, I didn't see a house. The house was gone, burned down years ago, looked like. Just a chimney standing there like a tombstone. But behind the ruins, inside a barn that was leaning sideways, fighting gravity and losing, there it was. It was a monster, an old red beast, tires flat, covered with dust thick as a wool blanket, rust eating away at the fenders like a disease. It looked like it hadn't moved since the day I was born. I walked up to it. I touched the cold metal hood, my inheritance, my legacy, a pile of scrap metal. I felt angry. I wanted to scream. Other kids leave the system and find out they have an aunt or a savings account. I got a lawn ornament. I climbed up into the seat. The leather was cracked and split. I put the key in the ignition. It fit perfectly. I turned it. Click. Nothing. Not even a groan. Just dead silence. The wind whistled through the holes in the barn roof. I sat there on that dead machine and I cried. I'm not ashamed to say it. I cried until my chest hurt. I felt like a joke, a cosmic joke. But then the sun started to go down. It got cold. I had nowhere to go, no money for a motel. So I curled up in the cabin of that tractor. It smelled like old grease and tobacco smoke, a smell that was strangely comforting, like a ghost of a memory. I slept there in the belly of the beast. I didn't leave. I don't know why. Maybe because I had nowhere else to be. Maybe because I'm stubborn. I decided I was going to fix it. If this was all I had, I was going to make it work.
I slept in the barn. I ate cheap beans. I walked into town and swept floors at the mechanic shop to earn money for parts. I bought a wrench, then a hammer, then fresh oil. I spent 3 months fighting that machine. It fought back. I busted my knuckles. I got oil in my eyes. I cursed my father. I cursed my mother. I talked to the tractor. I named him the General. "Come on, General," I'd say. "Don't be like them. Don't quit on me." One evening, I was working on the engine block. I was trying to clean out the air intake. It was clogged solid with a bird's nest and mud. I was digging deep, my arm elbow deep in the machinery. My fingers brushed against something, not metal, not rubber. It felt like plastic, a hard box. It was wedged tight in a hollow space behind the engine block, a place nobody would ever look unless they were tearing the engine apart to rebuild it, a place meant to stay hidden. My heart started hammering against my ribs. I grabbed a crowbar. I pried. I pulled. I swore. Snap! It broke free. A black metal ammunition box, welded shut but rusted enough to break. I sat on the dirt floor, breathing hard. My hands were black with oil. I took a screwdriver and popped the lid. Inside, it wasn't gold. It wasn't cash. It was a stack of papers wrapped in oilcloth to keep 'em dry, and a cassette tape. I found an old battery-powered tape player at a pawn shop the next day. I sat on the tractor seat, overlooking the overgrown field. I pressed play. There was a hiss of static. Then a voice, a man's voice, deep, tired, but warm. "Hey, son, if you're hearing this, it means I'm gone, and it means you're old enough to fix the tractor. I knew you'd figure it out. You got my hands." I froze. That voice, it vibrated in my bones. "I know you probably hate me," the voice said. "I know you think we left you, but we didn't leave you, boy. We hid you." The story spilled out. My father wasn't a bum. He was a farmer. This land, it wasn't just dirt. Beneath this land was a massive aquifer, a water source worth millions. A corporation wanted it. They tried to buy him out for pennies. He said no. They threatened him. They threatened my mother. They told me they'd burn the house down with us inside. My father's voice cracked on the tape. "So that night, I took you to the state. I dropped you off at the fire station, not because I didn't want you, but because nobody looks for a kid in the system. It was the only place they couldn't touch you. I changed your last name on the paperwork. I made you a ghost to save your life." He paused. I could hear him lighting a cigarette on the tape. "They're coming for me tonight, son. I can see the headlights coming up the drive, but they won't find the deed. They think if they kill me and burn the house, the land becomes unclaimed. But I hid the deed. It's in this box, along with the mineral rights." I looked at the papers in my lap. The deed, the official ownership, this land, these hundreds of acres, they were mine. They had always been mine. "I'm leaving you the tractor because a man needs to know how to work before he knows how to own. If you fix the General, you earned this land. I love you, son. I'm sorry I won't see you grow up, but I'll be in the soil. I'll be in the rain. Just keep the engine running." The tape clicked off.
I sat there for a long time. The silence of the field wasn't empty anymore. It was full of him, full of her.
They didn't leave me nothing. They left me everything. They left me a life. I wiped my face with my dirty sleeve. I looked at the papers. The land was worth a fortune now. Developers were still circling like vultures. I could sell it. I could take the millions, buy a penthouse in the city, and never touch Greece again. I looked at the general. Ugly, rusty, beautiful. I put the key back in the ignition. I pumped the gas. Come on, General, for him. I turned the key. The engine coughed. It sputtered. It wheezed like an old man waking up. And then, roar! Black smoke shot out of the stack. The whole machine shook. The engine roared to life, loud and defiant. It sounded like a heartbeat, a massive iron heartbeat. I felt the vibration go up my spine. I shifted into gear. The wheels turned. The mud flew. I didn't sell the land. I kept it. I cleared the fields. I rebuilt the barn. I built a house right where the old one stood. Every time I turn that key, every time I plow a row of corn, I'm shaking hands with my father. They told me I had nothing but a key to a tractor. They were wrong. That key was the key to my history. It was the key to my dignity. It was the key to knowing that I wasn't thrown away. I was hidden away like a treasure until I was strong enough to protect myself. I'm not an orphan anymore. I'm a farmer's son, and this is my land. You'd think the story ends there, right? Boy finds tractor, boy finds deed, happily ever after. Life ain't a fairy tale. Life is a fight. I'd been living in that rebuilt barn for 6 months, me and the general. We cleared acres of brush. My hands were permanently stained with grease and soil. I was starting to feel like a man. Then came the sharks. It was a Tuesday again. Funny how bad news always comes on a Tuesday. A black SUV, shiny as a funeral shoe, crawled up my driveway. 2 men got out, suits that cost more than my whole life, shoes that had never touched cow manure. One of them, the tall one with eyes like a dead fish, walked up to the fence. He didn't offer a hand, he just smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile a wolf gives a lamb. "Mr. Miller?" he asked, using my new name, my father's name. "That's me," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "We represent Apex Water Solutions. We know you've acquired this property. We're prepared to make you a very generous offer. Cash today." He named a number. It was big, enough to leave the state, enough to forget the orphanage, the cold nights, the hunger. I looked at the general sitting in the field. I looked at the dirt under my boots. "Not for sale," I said. The smile dropped off his face like a mask. "Listen, kid, you're playing a game you don't understand. Your father played this game. Look what happened to him." A chill went down my spine, hotter than any fire. "Get off my land," I whispered, "before I bury you in it." They left, but as they drove away, the tall one pointed a finger at me like a gun. I knew then the war had just started.
Chapter 7. The Night of Fire. They didn't wait long. 3 nights later, I woke up to the sound of screaming. Not a person. Metal. The barn door was groaning. I looked out the window and saw the sky was bleeding orange. Fire. They'd torched the edge of the cornfield. The wind was blowing it straight toward the barn, straight toward the general. I didn't think.
I didn't put on shoes. I ran. The heat was like a physical wall. I could hear the corn popping like gunfire. My legacy was burning. I jumped into the tractor. The seat was hot to the touch. I prayed to whatever God listens to orphans. Start, please, start. The general didn't hesitate. He roared. I didn't run away from the fire. I drove into it. I dropped the plow blade and I drove a trench line right between the fire and the barn. I turned the earth over, burying the flames, choking them with dirt. I drove like a madman. Smoke filled the cabin. I couldn't breathe. My eyes were burning. But I felt guided. It felt like another pair of hands was on the steering wheel with me. Strong hands, helping me turn the wheel. When the fire died down, I sat there, covered in soot, coughing up black phlegm. I looked at the tree line. I saw headlights fading away. They tried to burn me out, just like they did to my parents. But they made a mistake. They thought fear would make me run. But fear? I grew up in the system. Fear is my roommate. Fear just makes me angry. Chapter 8. The Hidden Compartment. The next morning, I was checking the general for damage. The heat had blistered the paint, but the iron held. I was tightening the bolts under the seat when I saw it. The heat had melted a piece of rubber ceiling, revealing a false bottom in the toolbox. My heart stopped. Another secret. My father was a clever man, a paranoid man. Thank God for that. I pried it open. Inside was a leather journal. It smelled of smoke and time. I opened it. It wasn't my father's handwriting. It was softer, curvier. It was my mother's. I sat on the scorched earth and read. She wrote about me. She wrote about my first steps. She wrote about how much she loved the sound of rain on the roof. But the last entry changed everything. Date, November 12th, 18 years ago. They aren't just after the water. They are after what we found digging the well. It's not just an aquifer. It's history, caves, native artifacts, things that shouldn't be disturbed. If they get the land, they'll destroy it all for a profit. We have to hide the boy. We have to hide the map. A map. I turned the page. There was a hand-drawn sketch of the property. A big X was marked near the old creek bed, about a mile back. It wasn't just land. It was a heritage site. That's why they killed for it. If the state knew what was down there, the land would be protected forever. No drilling, no corporation. I realized then, my parents didn't just die for a farm. They died to protect history, and they left me the key to save it.
Chapter 9. The Standoff. I called the State Historical Society. I sent them photos of the journal. They said they were coming, but the corporation must have had taps on the phone lines, because an hour later, the heavy machinery arrived. 3 massive yellow bulldozers and a sheriff's car. The sheriff was a man I'd never seen, probably paid for by the suit in the black car. They stopped at the gate. The suit got out. He looked at the burnt field and laughed. "Last chance, kid," he yelled. "We have a court order. Imminent danger. We're clearing the land." It was a lie, a bold-faced lie. I climbed into the general. He looked small compared to their modern machines. He was rusty, scarred, and old, but he had a heart of iron. I drove him to the middle of the gateway. I parked him sideways. I killed the engine and put the key in my pocket. I stood on top of the tractor hood. I held up the journal. "You take one more step," I screamed, my voice cracking, "and you'll have to bury me with my father."
The bulldozers revved their engines. Black smoke filled the air. The sheriff put his hand on his gun. My knees were shaking. I was 18 years old, alone, facing giants. I closed my eyes. I thought about the orphanage. I thought about the empty bed. I thought about the key. I am not nothing, I told myself. I am the wall. Suddenly, a siren wailed in the distance. Not a police siren, a different one. Then another car and a truck. I opened my eyes. Old pickup trucks were pulling up behind the bulldozers. Men in overalls, women in aprons. The townspeople. The people who knew my father. The people who were too scared to speak up back then. But seeing the fire last night, seeing a boy fight a war alone, it woke them up. They got out of their trucks. They held shovels, pitchforks, crowbars. They stood behind the general, a human wall. The suit looked at me. He looked at the angry town. He looked at the State Historical Society van pulling up with the state seal on the side. He knew it was over. He got in his car and he turned around. Chapter 11. The Box from the City. Time is a funny thing. It moves slow when you're waiting for a bus in the rain, and it moves fast when you're watching corn grow. I'm an old man now. The general is parked in the barn under a tarp. We're both retired. My joints creak just as loud as his axles used to. Last week I got a package. The return address was a law firm in the city. I don't like lawyers. Never met one that didn't bring trouble. But this was different. The letter said it was the execution of a will. Mrs. Gable, the director of the orphanage, the woman with the cold eyes and the stamp. Stamp, sign, get out. She passed away at 92. I hadn't thought about her in 50 years. I thought she was just a cog in the machine that chewed me up. The lawyer wrote that she left specific instructions, a box for me. I opened it. My hands shook, just like they did that day in the barn when I found the deed. Inside wasn't money. It was a stack of letters, dozens of them, and a photograph. I picked up the photo. It was black and white, grainy. 2 young women standing in front of a shiny new red tractor. One was laughing, her hair wild in the wind. That was my mother. I knew her face from the few pictures I had. But the other woman, the one with her arm around my mother's shoulder, smiling a genuine, warm smile, it was Mrs. Gable. Chapter 12. The Guardian Angel. I read the letters. They were from my mother to Mrs. Gable. Dear Martha, they are getting closer. If anything happens to us, you have to promise. Don't let him go to a foster family. They'll find him. Put him in the system. Hide his file. Be cold to him. Make him want to leave as soon as he turns 18. It's the only way to keep him safe until he's ready. I couldn't breathe. I sat there by the fire, tears streaming down my wrinkled face. She wasn't mean. She wasn't cold. She was acting. For 18 years she played the villain so I could survive. She hid me in plain sight. She watched me grow up, wanting to hug me, wanting to tell me about my mother, but she couldn't, because if she showed me favor, questions would be asked. The corporation would find me. She saved the key. She saved the $40, which I learned from the letters came from her own pocket, not the state. All those years I thought I was alone. I thought nobody cared, but she was there, a guardian angel dressed in a gray wool suit, smelling of bleach and coffee. I drove into the city the next day. I found her grave. It was simple, overgrown. I took a small trowel and dug a little hole right next to her headstone. I took a handful of dirt from my farm, our farm, and poured it in. "Thank you," I whispered. "I fixed the tractor." Chapter 13. The New Recruit. You can't keep secrets forever, and you can't keep machines under tarps. It's bad for the soul. My grandson, Leo, he's 10. He's got the same look in his eyes I had, stubborn, curious, a little bit wild. I walked him into the barn. I pulled the tarp off the general. The boy gasped. "It's a monster, Grandpa." "No," I said, "he's family." I didn't give him the key, not yet. I handed him a rag and a bucket of soapy water. A man needs to know how to care for something before he knows how to drive it. My father's words coming out of my mouth. We spent the summer working on it. I taught him how to change the plugs, how to bleed the fuel lines, how to listen to the engine. I saw his hands get dirty. I saw him learn patience. I saw him learn that nothing good comes easy. When the leaves started to turn gold, I knew it was time. I sat him in the seat. His legs barely reached the pedals. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the key. The iron was smooth now, worn down by my thumb over 50 years of worry and prayer. "This is for you," I said. "For me?" he asked. "Not the tractor," I said. "The legacy. This key, it opens more than an engine. It opens a future. It reminds you that no matter where you start, even if you start with nothing but rust and rain, you can build a kingdom." The iron heartbeat. The engine roared. Roar! It didn't sound like an old machine anymore. It sounded eternal. I watched him drive it slowly down the lane, the mud flying, the sun setting behind him. I'm ready now. When my time comes, I won't be afraid. I'll go into the soil. I'll join my father, my mother, and Mrs. Gable. They told me I had nothing. They were wrong. I had a key, and because of that key, I unlocked a life. If you're out there, if you feel like you've got nothing, check your pockets, check your heart. You might just have the key to something great. You just have to be brave enough to turn it.